Today we're going to be palpating the head and the sternum and some of the spinal cord. So we're going to start with the anterior face and the head. So in the front, where your forehead is, when you palpate, that will be considered the frontal bone of the head. As you move your hands to the side, you will find the temporal bone, which sits by the ear, above and to the side. As you come up to the top of the head, you will have your parietal bone. You have one that's on the left and one that's on the right. Coming to the back of the head, you have the occipital bone that sits back here. So at the occipital bone, you will palpate down the head to find a bump called the occipital protuberance. And this bone right here, and that's the bone that you will find in the middle of the head. And to the left and to the right of it, if you palpate to the left or both to the left and to the right, you will feel a ridge. And at this ridge, you will find the occipital superior nuchal line. To the left and to the right, as you palpate, you'll feel a ridge. So from the occipital protuberance, you will work your way down and you will have them bend their neck. And as they bend their neck, you'll see a hump. And at this hump on their back, that is where the C7 is. Your cervical the cervical of the vertebrae, number 7. So if you palpate where it's at, the bone, the part that is sticking out is called the spinal process. So this would be called the spinal process, the spinous process of the C7 is what you feel. Everything that goes down the spinal cord, the bumps that you feel going down is called spinous processes. But this one right here, particularly, number 7, is the spinous process of the C7. So we're gonna palpate down. Here goes T1. We're gonna go down one more, and that is T2. And as you go from the spinous process to the left and to the right of it, you will feel the transverse process. You will have to kind of dig in there to get past the muscles and soft tissue. So right there and right there to the left and to the right of the spinous process of the T2, you will find the transverse process of T2. So coming back to the anterior side of the body, we're going to have them turn their neck to the left or to the right, and then you will palpate coming from behind the ear and and that's where you will find the sternocleidomastoid muscle. Oh, that's a tongue tie. A sternum mastoid muscle. So it starts back here from up here, like by your temporals, like at the end where the bone is, to down the neck. Is that muscle that sticks out as they turn, that protrudes. So coming down towards after the muscle, right here on top is called the jugular notch, which it sits on top of the sternum. So the sternum will be all right here. So the sternum will be all this right here that you will palpate from the notch, the jugular notch, all the way down. All the way down till you get to the tip. And at the end of the sternum, you will find the xiphoid process. This top part of the sternum is called the mandrum of the sternum, which is right here, the top part. So you have the jugular notch, then it goes down to the mandum of the sternum, and then you have your sternum, and then you have all the way down to the distal end, the xiphoid process. So going back up to the face, we're going to palpate the masseter muscle and the temporalis muscles. So what you're going to do is have them clench their teeth, and you can feel it right here. This is your masseter muscle right here, kind of where your cheekbones are, and then your temporalis is superior to it right here, that protrudes as they clench their teeth. You can find it on both sides of the face, the area where the cheek is, and over here on the side of your frontal bone, kind of in front of where your temporal is, you'll find your temporalis. So going back to the back of the head, where your occipital protuberance is, we're going to palpate down the neck, and as you're palpating, you're looking for the first spinous process, and that is going to be right about, where's the protuberance? You're going to palpate down. So right here is the spinous process, and that's going to be the axis, and the outlet sits on top. So C1 and then C2. C2 has a spinous process, and C1 has no spinal process. So as you're palpating, and the first spinal process that you feel, that would be C2. And then right above it, as you palpate, will be C1. C1 and then C2. And then further down right here will be your C7, where the hump is in their back. So from the occipital protuberance, and you palpate down. Right here. And you find your first spinal process, that would be C2, and right above it will be C1. one. So going back to the front of the face, we're going to palpate the mandible and the different parts. So you'll start on the side of their face and you'll ask them to open their jaw. And where they open their jaw at and close it, that's where the condyles of the mandible is. So as you go down, palpate down, you'll feel like kind of like a lump right here in a way. And that's the ramus of the mandible. And as you go down right here, underneath the mouth, you'll find another protuberance, which is the angle of the mandible. And as you slide forward to the chin area, that's where you will find the body of the mandible. So right here is considered the mandible. So this is the body. And palpating down the body, you will get to the angle, which sits on the bottom, and palpate up to the next protuberance, and that will be the ramus. And as they open their mouth, and you go further up, you find the condyles of the mandible. So coming off from the condyles, you will palpate forward to right here, pop up forward just about an inch, and you will start palpating the zygomatic arch. And the zygomatic arch will lead you straight into the zygomatic, which is right below underneath the eye. That's where you find the zygomatic arch. The zygomatic arch is above the condyles, and like an inch forward you'll find